The wind howled across the frozen wasteland, carrying with it shards of ice sharp enough to tear through cloth. Jack Morgan pulled his coat tighter and pressed on, his boots crunching against the endless white. The tundra was not a place for wandering souls. Out here, nature did not forgive mistakes. It swallowed the careless, burying them beneath layers of snow and silence. Yet Jack kept moving, guided not by choice, but by a strange streak of fire in the sky. He had seen it fall only minutes ago, splitting the heavens with a light brighter than lightning, and now his gut told him it was something more than just a meteor. Through the storm, he spotted smoke curling into the sky, black against the white. His heart quickened. Whatever had fallen, it had not burned out. He climbed the ridge, the bitter cold biting his face, and there it was, half buried in snow and ice. A wreck, unlike anything he had seen before. Metal curved in strange patterns, smooth and silver, glowing faintly from within. It looked alive in some way, humming with a pulse that seemed to fight against the tundra's deathly chill. Jack approached slowly, his breath fogging in the air. The object was not large, no bigger than a small cabin. But as he reached out and touched its frozen hull, he felt heat radiating from it, like the thing was protecting itself. Then he saw it, through a cracked window smeared with frost. A figure inside. A person. Jack's blood turned to ice. It was a girl. She was slumped against the wall of the pod, her body glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Her skin shimmered like polished stone, pale yet tinted with a faint hue that no human could possess. Her hair, long and black as night, clung to her face, and her lips moved as if whispering words in a language Jack did not understand. "Holy hell," Jack muttered, his voice barely a breath. He smashed his fist against the release panel. Nothing happened. The pod seemed dead, locked in its final breath. He pulled his knife, pried at the seam, then slammed his shoulder into the hatch until it gave way with a hiss of escaping steam. Warm air rushed out, carrying with it a strange scent, sweet, electric, alien. The girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Jack staggered back. Her eyes were the color of stars, deep silver with flecks of violet swirling inside. She blinked at him, confusion flooding her face, fear mixing with wonder. Her lips parted. "Help me." The words were broken, strained, but human enough to freeze him in place. Jack stepped closer, his instincts screaming at him to be careful, but something about her pulled him in. He slid his arms beneath her, surprised by how light she was, almost weightless despite her tall frame. Her body was warm, too warm for the frozen world outside. She clung weakly to his jacket as he lifted her out of the pod. The storm howled louder, as if the tundra itself wanted to swallow them whole. Jack carried her down the ridge, his mind spinning. Who was she? Where had she come from? And why did he feel, deep in his bones, that finding her was no accident? By the time he reached his cabin, the girl had slipped into unconsciousness again, her breathing shallow but steady. He laid her gently on his bed, stoking the fire high to keep her warm. She shifted in her sleep, murmuring words he did not understand. Jack sat beside her, studying her face. She was beautiful, but not in any way he could explain. Every feature seemed carved with a precision beyond human. Then it happened. She stirred, groaning softly, and when Jack reached out to adjust the blanket, her hand brushed his. A jolt shot through him, a rush of warmth spreading from her touch. He gasped and pulled back, but the cut on his hand, one he had gotten earlier from the pod's sharp metal, was gone, completely healed. Jack stared at his skin in disbelief. "What the hell are you?" he whispered. Her eyes opened again, glowing faintly in the dim firelight. She looked at him with confusion and sorrow, as if she wanted to answer, but could not. Then she spoke, her voice soft, fragile. "I do not remember." Jack felt his chest tighten. Whoever she was lost. And he was the only one who had found her. The fire crackled inside the cabin, throwing shadows across the wooden walls. Jack sat in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The girl lay still, her silver eyes half-lidded, the faint glow in her skin pulsing like a heartbeat. She looked fragile, yet something told him she was anything but weak. Hours passed. The storm outside raged on, beating against the cabin walls like a living beast. Jack busied himself with small tasks, boiling water, checking supplies, but his eyes always drifted back to her. She was a mystery dropped into his life, and mysteries out here rarely brought good fortune. When she finally stirred again, Jack leaned forward. She looked around the cabin, her gaze full of fear and confusion. "You are safe?" Jack said gently. "I found you in the snow. Your ship, if that is what it was, crashed." Her eyes fixed on him, shimmering with uncertainty. "Ship," she echoed, the word strange on her tongue. She pressed her hands to her head, shaking it as if fighting through fog. "I do not remember." Jack frowned. "Not even your name?" She blinked, silent for a long time, then whispered, "No." The word hung heavy between them. Jack sighed, running a hand through his unkempt hair. "All right, then we start simple. You need food, rest, and time. Maybe it will come back to you." He handed her a bowl of stew, and though she looked at it with suspicion, hunger won out. She ate carefully, as if rediscovering the act itself. Jack could not help but notice how her hands trembled, how her eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal. But when she finished, something changed. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack nodded. "You are welcome." That night, as she slept, Jack dreamed of fire streaking through the sky. He saw worlds he had never known, cities floating above oceans of glass, creatures with wings of light. And at the center of it all, he saw her, standing tall, radiant, with galaxies swirling in her eyes. He woke in a cold sweat, the echo of her voice lingering in his mind, calling out in a language he did not understand. The following days blurred together. She recovered quickly, far quicker than any human could have. Her strength returned, her movements graceful and sure, as if her body remembered what her mind had forgotten. But strange things began to happen. Once, Jack cut himself while chopping wood. She touched his arm, and the wound closed in seconds, leaving not even a scar. Another time, the fire in the hearth began to die, and with a wave of her hand, the flames roared back to life, stronger than before. Jack pretended not to notice, but deep down he knew. This girl was no ordinary survivor. One evening, as the snow fell soft outside, Jack finally asked, "Do you know what you are capable of?" She looked at him, puzzled. "What do you mean?" He gestured to the fire, to his unscarred arm. "That. The things you do without even thinking." Her brow furrowed. I feel it. The energy. It listens to me. But it frightens me. If I cannot remember who I am, how do I know I am not dangerous?" Jack's gaze softened. "If you were dangerous, I think I would already be dead. Whatever you are, whoever you are, you saved me more than once already. That tells me enough." She looked away, but he saw the faintest blush on her cheeks. It was not long before the peace shattered. It started with the lights in the sky. Jack saw them first while gathering wood, a cluster of glowing shapes moving in formation above the tundra clouds. Not stars, not meteors, ships. He hurried back to the cabin, his chest tight. The girl was standing outside, staring at the sky with wide eyes. Her lips moved soundlessly, as if a memory was clawing its way back. "They are looking for me," she whispered. Jack froze. "Who?" Before she could answer, the night erupted with sound. Engines roared overhead, and beams of light cut through the snow. Dark shapes descended, tall figures clad in armor that shimmered like obsidian. Their faces were hidden, their weapons humming with energy. "Aliens." The girl clutched Jack's arm, fear etched across her face. "Please do not let them take me." Jack's instincts screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere to go. The tundra stretched endless in every direction. Still, he stood tall, placing himself between her and the approaching figures. One of them stepped forward, taller than the rest, his voice deep and cold. "Return the asset. Step aside, human. She belongs to us." Jack clenched his fists. "She belongs to no one." The alien tilted his head, studying him like an insect. Defiance. Primitive. Irrelevant. He raised a hand, and the others moved forward. Jack's heart pounded. He had no weapon strong enough to face them. But then, the girl stepped beside him. Her eyes blazed silver, her hair lifting as if caught in an unseen wind. The snow around them swirled violently, ice shards spinning like blades. The aliens hesitated. The girl raised her hands, and the storm answered her call. Wind howled, snow turned into a blizzard, and the armored figures staggered under the force. With a scream that shook the night, She unleashed a blast of ice that sent the first wave flying. Jack could only stare. She collapsed after, falling to her knees, trembling from the effort. Jack caught her, holding her tight, as the remaining aliens regrouped. Their leader's voice cut through the storm. So, the weapon remembers. The girl shivered in Jack's arms, tears streaking down her cheeks. Weapon, is that all I am? Jack pulled her close, his voice firm. No, you are more than that. You are someone worth fighting for. The aliens advanced again, their shadows looming large. And Jack knew this was only the beginning. The night was alive with chaos. Snow whipped in every direction, driven by winds that howled like wolves, masking the sound of boots crunching closer. Jack tightened his grip on the girl as she tried to steady herself, her body trembling after unleashing such immense power. Her breath came out in sharp gasps, each one glowing faintly in the frigid air. The lead alien raised his hand, and a beam of sickly green light shot toward them. Jack reacted without thinking. He threw himself down, pulling the girl with him. The beam slammed into the ground, exploding in a shower of melted snow and scorched earth. Jack's cabin caught the edge of the blast. The wooden walls shuddered, flames licking the edges. The only home he had ever known began to burn. Move, Jack growled, pulling her toward the treeline. The aliens followed, their armor gleaming in the firelight, their weapons primed. Jack's heart thundered in his chest. He had fought men before, in wars that seemed like another life. But this was different. These were not soldiers. These were predators, trained and merciless. The girl stumbled beside him, her strength faltering. I cannot keep doing this, she whispered, her voice breaking. Jack gritted his teeth. Then lean on me. We get through this together. They plunged into the forest, branches snapping underfoot, snow falling heavy around them. The aliens did not falter. Their voices echoed in a strange, guttural language, their movements sharp and coordinated. Finally, when the sound of pursuit grew dangerously close, Jack pulled her down behind a cluster of rocks. She clung to him, shivering, her silver eyes clouded with despair. They will never stop, she whispered. They know what I am. Jack cupped her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. Then let them come. They will have to go through me first. Her eyes widened, as if the words struck something deep inside. A flicker of memory, perhaps, or something more. Before either of them could speak, the ground shook. A new ship descended through the storm, larger than the escape pod, its lights piercing the night. It landed nearby with a hiss of steam, the snow melting instantly around it. The alien soldiers paused, forming a protective ring. The ship's ramp lowered, and a figure emerged. This one was different. Taller, regal, cloaked in black and silver. His armor gleamed with markings that glowed faintly, and his face, though alien, bore a cruel, unmistakable intelligence. His eyes, pale, almost white, swept the tundra until they fell on her. There you are, he said, his voice like silk over steel. The girl stiffened in Jack's arms. A name trembled on her lips, unbidden. Karath. The alien leader smiled. So you do remember. Jack's chest tightened. He could feel her shaking. He whispered, Who is he? Her voice cracked. I do not know, but he terrifies me. Karath stepped forward, his soldiers parting for him like shadows. You were ours once. You are more than flesh. You are creation itself. You are the weapon that will end empires. The girl's eyes filled with tears. No, I do not want to be that. Karath tilted his head, his smile fading into something colder. One has nothing to do with it. Jack stepped in front of her, his fists clenched though he knew he was hopelessly outmatched. She is not your weapon. She is not your anything. Karath studied him, amusement flickering across his face. A human, defying me. How quaint. He gestured, and two of his soldiers moved forward. Jack braced himself, ready to fight even though he knew it was suicide. But before the aliens could reach him, the girl screamed. It was not just sound, it was power. The air trembled, the snow exploded outward in a blast of energy. The soldiers were thrown back like rag dolls, their armor sparking. The storm itself seemed to bow to her command, snow and wind bending around her like an army awaiting orders. Jack shielded his face from the blizzard, barely able to see her standing now, glowing with raw energy. Her fear was gone. In its place burned something fierce, something unyielding. I am not your weapon, she said, her voice echoing with a power that shook the trees. Karath did not flinch. Instead, he smiled, slow and cruel. Yes, you are. You just do not understand it yet. Jack reached for her, his voice cutting through the storm. Listen to me. You are not what he says. You are more than what they want you to be. You saved me. You chose to save me. That is who you are. Her glowing eyes met his. For a heartbeat, the storm stilled, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then the aliens attacked again. Blades of energy cut through the night. Beams lanced toward them. Jack dove aside, dragging her with him. The ground erupted around them. Trees splintered and fell. The fight had truly begun. And Jack knew, deep in his bones, that neither of them would walk away unchanged. The night turned into a battlefield. Snow and fire collided, the air thick with smoke and the stench of burning wood. Jack dragged the girl behind a fallen tree, his chest heaving, ears ringing from the thunder of alien weapons. Karatha's soldiers moved like shadows, precise and relentless. They fired in coordinated bursts, forcing Jack and the girl to keep moving. Every time they seemed cornered, she lashed out, ice spikes shooting from the ground, winds whipping so violently that trees cracked and splintered. But every burst of power drained her, her glow fading a little more each time. Jack could see it. She was burning herself out. He gritted his teeth, scanning the snowy battlefield. He needed an edge. He needed something, anything. His eyes fell on one of the soldiers lying half-buried in snow, his weapon knocked free. Jack lunged for it, the cold metal biting into his hands as he wrestled it up. It hummed with strange energy, heavier than it looked. He turned it on instinct and pulled the trigger. A beam of blue light tore through the air, slamming into another soldier and sending him sprawling. Jack blinked in shock, then fired again. The weapon kicked against him, raw and violent, but he did not care. For the first time, he had teeth in the fight. The girl looked at him, her lips trembling between fear and awe. "You should not be able to wield that," she whispered. Jack spat snow from his mouth. "Well, guess I missed the memo." The battle raged on. Karath watched from the rise of a hill, calm, collected, almost entertained. His soldiers pressed harder, pushing Jack and the girl back toward the burning wreckage of the cabin. Jack's arms ached, his lungs burned, but he refused to give an inch. Then Karath finally moved. He descended the hill like a king striding into his throne room. The snow parted for him, the storm bending away from his presence. Jack fired at him, beam after beam, but Karath raised a hand. The shots dissolved into sparks before they reached him. "You cannot stop this," Karath said softly, his voice carrying over the chaos. "She is mine. She was made for this." The girl stood weakly, her body trembling, but her eyes blazed. "I was not made for you." Karatha's smile was cold. "You were made to end worlds." He raised his hand, and suddenly the girl collapsed, clutching her head. Jack dropped the weapon and caught her as she fell, her screams tearing through the night. Her body glowed brighter, racked with violent energy that seemed to rip her apart from the inside. "What are you doing to her?" Jack shouted. Karatha's gaze sharpened. "I am waking her up." The girl's eyes snapped open, but they were no longer silver. They burned white-hot, glowing with pure power. The ground shook, snow melting in waves. The soldiers stepped back, unease breaking their discipline. Jack held her tightly, but she pushed him away with strength that nearly broke him. She rose, floating inches above the ground, her voice layered with echoes. "I remember." Jack's heart sank. Karath spread his arms. "Yes, remember who you are. Remember what you were born to be." Her gaze snapped to him, fierce and unrelenting. "I remember, enough to know I will never be yours." She unleashed a scream of power, a shockwave of ice and wind blasting outward. Soldiers flew through the air, trees toppled, the very ground cracked. Karath staggered for the first time, his smile fading into a grim snarl. Jack shielded himself from the storm, snow and shards of ice cutting across his skin. When the world finally stilled, he saw her collapse again, falling limp into the snow. He rushed to her side, lifting her gently. She was breathing, but barely, her glow faint. Karath rose from the snow, fury blazing in his pale eyes. "This is not over. You cannot protect her forever." Jack tightened his hold on her, glaring back with every ounce of defiance he had left. "Then you better bring an army." Karath studied him, his expression unreadable. Then, with a wave of his hand, the remaining soldiers retreated toward the ship. Karath followed last, his gaze never leaving Jack. She will come to us. She was built for it. And when she does, your kind will kneel. The ship lifted into the storm, vanishing into the night sky. Silence returned, broken only by Jack's ragged breathing and the girl's shallow breaths. Jack carried her back toward the smoldering remains of his cabin, his body aching, his mind reeling. He laid her down gently, brushing damp hair from her face. She stirred faintly, whispering his name, soft, fragile, but enough to break his heart. For the first time in years, Jack felt the weight of something he thought he had lost. Hope. But deep inside, he knew the fight had only just begun. The storm eased by morning, leaving the tundra cloaked in silence once more. The fire in Jack's cabin had died, leaving behind only blackened beams and drifting smoke. He sat near the ruins, the girl wrapped in his thickest blanket, her head resting against his shoulder. Her breathing was steadier now, but her glow had dimmed. She looked less like a force of nature and more like a lost child, fragile in ways that unsettled Jack. He stared out at the horizon, his mind racing. The soldiers would return. Karath would not stop. And yet, when he looked down at her, he felt something stir in his chest that drowned out the fear. He could not explain it, but he knew he would not abandon her. When she finally opened her eyes, she blinked at the ruined cabin and whispered, "I am sorry." Jack shook his head. "Do not apologize. None of this is your fault." Her gaze lingered on the wreckage. "I destroyed your home. You saved my life," Jack said firmly. "I can build another roof. I cannot build another you." Her lips parted slightly, as if the words surprised her. A faint flush touched her cheeks, and she lowered her eyes. Why do you care for me? You could have left me in the snow. You could have walked away." Jack thought of the night he found her, her silver eyes staring at him with fear and confusion. He thought of the way she healed him, the way she fought even when she was terrified, the way she whispered his name when she was at her weakest. "Because you are not just someone I found," he said softly. "You are someone worth protecting." For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy but not empty. She reached for his hand, her fingers cold but steady. "I do not even know who I am. I do not know if I deserve that." Jack tightened his grip gently. "Then let us figure it out together." The days that followed were quieter, though unease lingered like a shadow. They made camp near the ruins, using what scraps of wood Jack salvaged for shelter. She helped where she could, her movements graceful but hesitant, as though rediscovering herself with every task. Sometimes she would pause, staring at the horizon, her eyes distant. Once, Jack caught her murmuring words in a language he could not understand. Her voice carried a strange weight, as if the syllables belonged to the stars themselves. At night, the dreams came back, visions of cities made of crystal, ships sailing through oceans of fire, creatures kneeling before a throne of light. She would wake shaking, her skin glowing faintly, and Jack would sit beside her, keeping watch until she drifted back to sleep. But not all was fear. There were moments, small, fleeting, that felt almost human. The way she laughed when Jack tripped over himself gathering wood. The way her eyes softened when he handed her a steaming cup of broth. The way she hummed softly to herself as she traced strange symbols in the snow. Symbols that melted moments later, as if the earth itself refused to hold them. Jack began to realize he was no longer just protecting her. He was falling for her. And yet, he knew it could not last. On the 7th night after the attack, she woke suddenly, her eyes wide, her body tense. Jack sat up immediately. "What is it?" She pressed a hand to her chest, her breath ragged. "I feel them. They are close." Jack's blood ran cold. He reached for the salvaged alien weapon. Its hum familiar now, almost comforting. How close? Her silver eyes glowed faintly as she closed them, listening to something beyond the human senses. Not far. A scouting party. Jack cursed under his breath. He looked at her, tired, frightened, yet still glowing with that strange, unyielding strength. He knew Karath would never stop hunting her. Not until she was his. And Jack also knew this time he had to do more than react. He had to fight back. The tundra was quiet, almost deceptively so. The stars glimmered faintly above the endless white, their light weak against the looming shadow of approaching danger. Jack adjusted the alien weapon in his hands, its energy core humming against his palm. He hated the thought of killing again, but there was no room for hesitation now. The girl stood beside him, her eyes faintly glowing as she scanned the horizon. "They are 3. No 4, she whispered. "They move like hunters." Jack's jaw tightened. "Then we set the trap." They took cover among the twisted remains of the cabin. Smoke still clung to the air, disguising their scent, and the moonlight broke against the blackened beams. Jack crouched low, his muscles tense, his breath slow. Beside him, the girl pressed her hand into the snow, and frost rippled outward like veins of silver, ready to spring to life at her command. The first shadow appeared moments later. Tall, armored, its weapon scanning the wreckage with sharp, methodical sweeps. Another followed, then another, their movements careful but confident. The last came from the opposite side, boxing the ruins in. Jack's pulse quickened. He looked at the girl. She nodded once, her gaze firm despite the tremor in her hands. The lead alien stepped closer to the ruins. His voice growled in their guttural tongue, low and commanding. The others tightened formation, weapons raised. Jack squeezed the trigger. A bolt of energy lanced out, slamming into the nearest soldier and dropping him instantly. The girl moved at the same moment, raising her hands. Frost surged across the ground, swallowing 2 more soldiers to their knees, locking their legs in place. The 4th soldier roared, firing wildly into the wreckage. Beams sliced past Jack's head, scorching wood. Jack rolled out, firing back, and the blast caught the alien square in the chest. The soldier dropped, sparks flashing across his armor. The frozen pair struggled, breaking free just as the girl raised her hand again. Shards of ice ripped from the ground, spearing through their armor. They fell silent, the snow swallowing their bodies. It was over in less than a minute. Jack rose slowly, the weapon trembling in his hands. His breath came heavy, and though victory should have felt like relief, his chest ached with the old familiar weight of killing. He looked down at the fallen soldiers, their black armor glinting faintly in the moonlight. The girl approached him, her eyes soft but searching. "You saved me again," she whispered. Jack shook his head. "No, we saved each other." She reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek. A warmth spread from her touch, soothing the ache in his chest, calming the storm that had been building inside him for years. For a long moment, the battlefield melted away. It was just the 2 of them, standing in the silence of the tundra. But the moment passed too quickly. The girl lowered her hand, her silver eyes darkening. "This was only a scouting party. Karath will know. He will come himself." Jack clenched his fists, staring out into the endless horizon. "Then let him. He will find I am not so easy to break." She studied him, her lips trembling as if she wanted to say something more. Finally, she whispered, "I am afraid of what I will become when he comes again." Jack turned to her, his voice steady, certain. "Then do not face it alone. Whatever you are, whatever you were made for, you are not just his weapon. You are the girl I found in the snow. You are the girl who healed me with a touch. That is who you are to me." Her breath caught, and for the first time, she let herself lean into him fully, resting her head against his chest. He held her close, the cold night forgotten, the danger momentarily distant. But above them, far in the night sky, the faint glow of another ship streaked across the stars. A reminder that their time was running out. The tundra slept in uneasy silence, broken only by the faint crackle of Jack's makeshift fire. He and the girl sat close together, wrapped in heavy blankets, the alien weapon propped nearby like a loyal sentinel. She leaned against him, her silver eyes half closed, but Jack knew neither of them truly rested. The glow in the sky had been brief, but Jack had seen it. A ship, larger than the scouts, moving like a predator through the stars. He knew in his gut who it belonged to. Karath was coming. The girl stirred, sensing the tension in him. "You feel it too, do you not?" she whispered. Jack nodded. "He is close." She shivered. "He will not stop. He will tear this world apart until he finds me." Jack looked at her, his jaw set. "Then we make sure he does not leave this world alive." Her eyes widened. "Jack, he is stronger than you know. Stronger than I even remember. If he unleashes his full power, you cannot." Jack silenced her with a firm shake of his head. "Listen to me. I have fought wars before. I have lost friends, homes, and more than I care to admit. But I have never fought for someone, that mattered like you do. If he wants you, he has to go through me. and I will not fall easy. Her lips parted, trembling. She wanted to argue, but instead she only whispered, "Why do you care so much?" Jack held her gaze. "Because somewhere along the way, protecting you stopped feeling like survival. It started feeling like living again." For a moment, her breath caught, and she leaned forward slightly, as if drawn by some unseen force. But before she could answer, the ground beneath them rumbled. The fire hissed and died. The air thickened with an energy that prickled against Jack's skin. He stood quickly, grabbing the alien weapon, his body tense. The girl rose beside him, her eyes glowing brighter, her hair drifting as if pulled by unseen winds. Over the horizon, the ship appeared, massive, black, shaped like a blade cutting through the night. Its engines roared, shaking the earth, and as it descended, the snow around them melted into steaming pools. The ramp lowered, and Karath stepped out. He was draped in dark armor etched with glowing symbols, his pale eyes gleaming with cruel delight. Soldiers followed in formation, but Jack barely noticed them. His gaze locked on Karath alone. "You thought you could hide her from me," Karath said, his voice smooth and venomous. "You thought you could fight me with sticks and courage. Admirable, human, but pointless." Jack leveled the weapon at him, his finger tight on the trigger. "Pointless or not, I am not backing down." Karath smirked. "You remind me of your kind's history. Brave, defiant, and always doomed." The girl stepped forward then, her glow intensifying, her voice trembling but firm. "I am not yours, Karath. I will never be yours." His smirk faded. "You were made to serve. Your blood is coated with it. Your power is mine by design." Jack's pulse thundered. He saw the girl trembling, torn between fear and defiance. He stepped closer to her, his voice low but fierce. "Do not believe him. You are not what they made you. You are who you choose to be, and you are choosing right now." Her silver eyes locked on his, and for the first time, there was no doubt in them. Only fire. She raised her hands. The air rippled. The storm answered. Wind howled across the tundra, snow swirling in violent arcs. Her voice rang out, strong and unyielding. "I choose to fight." Karath's soldiers surged forward, weapons blazing. Jack fired, beams cutting through the night. The girl unleashed a wave of frost, freezing the ground beneath their enemies, sending them crashing to their knees. Energy blasts carved through trees, explosions lit up the snow, the battlefield erupting into chaos once more. But Karath did not send all his power at once. He stood still, watching, waiting, his pale eyes locked on the girl like a predator savoring the chase. And Jack knew the real fight had not even begun. The tundra became a storm of fire and ice. Alien weapons screeched through the night, carving burning lines across the snow. Jack fired until his arms shook, every shot slamming into armored soldiers who refused to fall easily. The girl stood at his side, her glow blazing brighter than ever, summoning walls of frost to block enemy fire, hurling shards of ice like spears. But still, Karath did not move. He stood on the rise, cloaked in the chaos, his pale eyes fixed on her. His soldiers fell, one by one, until only silence remained. The battlefield smoldered, steam rising from scorched earth and shattered trees. Jack lowered the weapon, his chest heaving, his body trembling from exhaustion. The girl staggered too, her glow flickering. Jack reached to steady her, but before he could, Karath finally descended. Each step he took was slow, deliberate. The ground itself seemed to bend under his presence. His armor glowed faintly, runes burning like fire. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the frozen air. "You have remembered fragments, but you cannot resist what you are. You are the key, the weapon forged from the heart of dying stars. You were created to break civilizations. That power is mine." The girl's eyes narrowed, silver fire blazing in them. "No, that power is mine, and I will never use it for you." Karath's smile thinned. "Then I will tear it from you." He raised his hand, and the air itself twisted. Jack felt his body yank forward, pulled by an invisible force. He crashed into the snow, the weapon flung from his grip. He tried to rise, but the pressure bore down on him, pinning him like an insect. The girl screamed his name, rushing to him, but Karath's other hand swept outward. She froze mid-step, her body lifting from the ground as if caught in unseen chains. Her glow flared violently, her hair whipping around her face, but she could not move. Karath stepped closer, his pale eyes drinking her in like a starving predator. You cannot fight me. I am your maker. Your power is bound to me. Her voice broke with fury. You did not make me. I am not yours. Karatha's smile vanished. With a flick of his wrist, he hurled her into the snow. She struck the ground hard, the glow around her flickering. Jack roared in fury, straining against the invisible weight holding him down. His vision blurred, blood filling his mouth, but he forced himself to rise inch by inch. Stay down, human, Karath sneered. This is not your fight. Jack spat blood, his voice hoarse but unyielding. The hell it is not. As long as I breathe, it is my fight. The pressure crushed harder, snapping bone, searing muscle, but Jack refused to fall. Inch by inch, he stood, his knees shaking, every vein in his body burning. Karatha's eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief flashing across his face. How? The alien snarled. Jack's lips curled into a defiant grin. Because I am human. And we do not kneel. With a final roar, Jack broke free of the invisible grip. He lunged forward, seizing the fallen alien weapon from the snow, and fired point-blank at Karath. The beam exploded across the alien's chest, sparks and fire erupting. Karath staggered, his cloak smoldering, his armor glowing with cracks. For the first time, he bared his teeth, not in a smile, but in rage. You will suffer for that, he hissed. Jack dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. His body was broken, but he forced himself to stand again, lifting the weapon once more. Beside him, the girl rose too, her glow surging back to life, brighter than before. Their eyes met, human and alien, survivor and survivor. No words were needed. Together, they faced Karath. The storm answered her call, wind screaming, snow blinding. Jack's weapon hummed with deadly energy. And for the first time, Karath no longer looked untouchable. The final battle had begun. The storm howled as if the world itself had chosen sides. Snow twisted into furious spirals, lightning cracked across the sky, and the ground shook under the clash of titans. Karatha's eyes burned with raw fury as he spread his hands, summoning a surge of energy that split the air like thunder. Bolts of violet power tore through the storm, searing the snow into glass. Jack rolled aside, his ribs screaming in pain, as one blast scorched the ground where he had stood. The girl stepped forward, silver fire spilling from her palms. Her glow became blinding, and with a cry that shook the mountains, she hurled a wave of ice and wind at Karath. Jagged shards screamed through the air like 1,000 knives. Karath raised his arm, his armor glowing brighter, a shield of energy flaring to life. The ice shattered against it, exploding into mist, but the force drove him back several steps. His snarl carried over the storm. You think you have found strength, he roared. You are nothing without me. Her eyes flared. I am everything without you. She raised her arms higher, and the storm bent to her will. Lightning fused with snow, a cyclone tearing across the battlefield. Karath pushed forward through the chaos, his shield flickering under the assault. Jack knew this was the moment. He dashed forward, firing the alien weapon with everything it had left. Beams cut into Karatha's side, sparks erupting as cracks spread across his armor. The alien staggered, his shield faltering under the combined fury of storm and gunfire. But then, with a roar of rage, Karath unleashed a blast so violent that it ripped the air apart. Jack was thrown across the tundra, his weapon skidding from his grasp. He crashed into the snow, dazed, his body refusing to rise. Karath turned on the girl, his armor fractured but his power undiminished. He thrust his hand forward, and chains of violet energy lashed out, wrapping around her limbs, pinning her in midair. She screamed as the glow around her dimmed, her body writhing under his grip. Jack forced his eyes open, blood running down his face. His vision blurred, but he saw her, suspended, breaking, her power draining into Karatha's grasp. No, he whispered. He dragged himself forward, inch by inch through the snow, his body torn, his strength almost gone. His hand closed around a jagged shard of ice, sharp as a blade. He rose to his knees, his breath ragged, his heart pounding. Karatha's voice boomed. At last, the weapon is mine. The galaxy will kneel. The girl's eyes locked on Jack through the storm. Even as her body trembled, Even as her power slipped away, she mouthed one word. Fight. With a roar that tore his throat raw, Jack hurled himself forward. He plunged the ice shard deep into the cracks of Karatha's armor. Sparks exploded. Karath howled in fury, his grip shattering for an instant. The girl broke free, her glow erupting brighter than ever before. She hovered in the storm, silver fire blazing across her skin, her hair a halo of light. Her voice rang like thunder, filled with unshakable resolve. I am not your weapon. I am not your creation. I am my own. With both hands, she unleashed everything, storm, ice, and light converging into a single, blinding torrent. The blast struck Karath square in the chest. His armor shattered, his body consumed by fire and frost. He screamed, his voice echoing across the mountains, before exploding into nothing but ash and sparks. Silence fell. The storm eased. The snow drifted gently once more. Jack collapsed into the snow, his strength finally gone. He gasped, struggling to stay awake, until he felt warmth. The girl knelt beside him, her glow soft now, her hands pressing gently to his wounds. Healing light seeped into him, knitting torn flesh, easing pain. Her voice was soft, trembling, yet filled with something new. You saved me, she whispered. You fought when no one else would. Jack smiled weakly, his eyes half closed. I told you. As long as I breathe, I fight for you. Her silver eyes shimmered with tears. She leaned close, her forehead resting against his. Then breathe, Jack, because I am not letting you go. And for the first time, in the quiet aftermath of war, the galaxy felt at peace. Days passed since the storm of fire and fury ended. The frozen tundra lay quiet again, though scorched earth and shattered trees bore witness to the battle no one else had seen. Jack awoke in a small cabin he had once built for survival. Now it was more than a shelter. It was home. He stirred, his body wrapped in fresh bandages, the aches dulled by a warmth he did not understand at first. Then he saw her. The girl sat by the fire, her black hair falling loose over her shoulders, her silver eyes watching the flames. She looked human, almost. The glow that once blazed from her skin was now softer, controlled, like a star learning to rest. When she turned and saw him awake, her smile carried something he had never seen before. Peace. You are alive, she whispered, as if afraid to believe it. Jack smirked faintly. I told you I would not go down easy. She rose, moving to his side, kneeling on the wooden floor. For a moment, she only studied him, her fingers brushing his hand. Then she said the words he had waited for since the day he found her. I remember my name. Jack blinked, his heart skipping. You do? She nodded slowly. Alara. The name carried weight, as if the stars themselves spoke it. That is who I was. But I think it is also who I am now. Alara, Jack said softly, tasting the name like a promise. She smiled, but there was sorrow in her eyes. Karath was not lying about everything. I was created, born for war, for destruction. There will be others who come, searching for me. Some will want to claim me. Others will want to kill me. If you stay with me, your life will never be simple again. Jack held her gaze, his voice steady despite the heaviness of her words. Alara, my life stopped being simple the moment I opened that pod and found you inside. And I do not regret a second of it. Her lips parted, her breath trembling. For a moment she said nothing, only leaned closer until her forehead touched his. Her voice was a whisper, fragile but unbreakable. Then wherever the stars take us, we go together. The fire crackled. Snow drifted gently outside. And in that quiet cabin, a soldier and an alien girl, no longer lost, no longer alone, chose a new beginning. The galaxy would come for them. More battles would rise. But for now, there was peace, and there was hope. And in the eyes of Alara, Jack saw something greater than destiny. He saw a future worth fighting for. And he knew he would fight for it. For her, for as long as he lived.